Hello, Missladypetal here. I just had sat down and watched Gina playing with the Stampin' Up clay that I sent her. So this is the Stampin' Up clay. Now, there are some things and tips and tricks that I had actually told Gina she's obviously forgotten about, because of course it's been a while since her birthday. So she obviously forgot the tips and tricks. But number one, when using, you can use any type of molds. I've got a couple of Martha Stewart molds here and some other molds that I picked up that are currently carried in my local Spotlight craft store. And I also have some Sculpey molds. But this is the sort of thing you can do with these molds. So I've got an actual flower mold, and then I've popped a face and I've painted the face, and these are just some cute little tags that I've made. This is one of my flowers. I have a massive little thing here because I'm doing a workshop where I'm going to be using some of these, but this is the sort of things that you can do with these molds. So I wanted to show you some applications that I've done recently, but I've also used them on canvases. So let me just pull, I'm just going to bring in some, yeah, get a bit closer here, and I'll show you what I mean. So I've got heaps of different things and keys. So there's the key mold there, and this is the key. I've got a lot of buttons. I've got a beautiful iris and dragonflies, and I love this hinge. You can see that hinge. It's fabulous. It's my favourite thing. Probably going to do, that's that same flower that you saw painted on the tag. And a flourish. So you can do lots of things. I've got lots of faces. I'm doing a workshop where I'm doing faces on flowers. For a mother's group actually later on this year. So, and I use a lot of faces in things, and the thing I like about this Stampin' Up clay is, one, it's really light, really foamy, so you can press this in and it's not heavy. It's really light. You can make these molds as thin as possible. You do not have to fill them up to the top. You have a look at this, and it's bendy and flexible. If you bend that too much, it will break like foam breaks. But I find that if you're careful about it, they're actually very flexible. Now, I like my faces very thin. So this is this thin face, so very thin, because I like the thought of being able to use this and not have it stick out so much. Very light. Very soft. So if you're going to use these on cards or on a scrapbook page or any type of craft, one, they're flexible, you can press them in. So I'm pressing that in, and then it retains its shape, right? So that's the beauty of these molds. And yes, you can do heaps of small tiny molds. I've got, oh, tiny faces. Here we go. Tiny moon face. I look forward to using that. Very cute. Right, so I'll pop these back in here. And so these haven't been painted yet. I particularly like the buttons because you can use them. You would have, if you're in Crazy Island family, you would have seen me use them on a steampunk angel in her wings recently. Okay, so yes, the first time you use these, just the first time, you'll use some sort of cooking spray, and you will wipe it off and just let that, and use that the first time. You won't need to use it again. Now, the tip that Gina forgot is less is more. So when you're using this clay, less is more. So you really want to, even if it's a deep mold, I work it in and I press it down and work it into, and I put less in first. I don't overuse it. right? Because it's easier to add more in than it is to add less. So I pull it out in tiny little amounts and I add it in roughly the amount that I think that I will need. And I don't mind if these are not as deep as the mold, right? Because it depends on how much depth you want. If you're going to use these on art journal pages, you might not want them nearly at all as deep as what the molds suggest. If you want to put them on journal covers, you might want them as deep and chunky and to give that depth. Right, so I haven't, and often I'll just run my finger over, because this is just slightly. You can see it's just that little bit greasy, right? But I don't know if you can see, but I've got some indentations, impressions here. So I've pressed it in a little. I need just that little bit more clay there, just to pop in and then flatten and smooth it out. The smoother that end result, the easier it is to adhere it to whatever surface you're looking at. And if I'm going to put in the tail, I'm going to roll it out a bit and just press it in a little roll. And then I'm going to just rub it from side to side until I get that perfect tail, because I'm all in for not having to trim at all. So I just work it away from the edges until I get something that's perfectly in the mold. Now the tip that I told Gina that she forgot is with Stampin' Up clay, and I learnt this from Vicky McBride, who's a Stampin' Up demonstrator here, and she got me this as a present, is chuck these in the freezer for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You can chuck them in for longer, it doesn't really matter, but a minimum of 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Then you can easily just pop them out, right? So I'm now going to pop that in the freezer. Oh, actually, I'll do a key, because there's a special way of doing and getting the tricky things like keys out, right? And so if you have a look what I'm doing, I'm making it stringy and I'm rolling it out, because I just want to roll it and kind of lay it here so that it presses easily and so that I don't have to do it, because with the keys in particular, they are much harder to get out until you know what the tricks are. And yes, I did tell Gina what the tricks were, but like I said, it's been a while since she got them and she's been busy with other commitments and kind of hasn't sat down to actually finish them off. And look, I've thought about Mod Podge melts. Thank you to P. Welsh, who told me I was saying it wrong. Because it's just easier for me to go Mod Podge. Now I have to think about it and go Mod Podge. Yeah, I've thought about doing that, but really with a hot glue gun, I don't want to burn myself, and this is so easy. Literally, you throw these in to the freezer and then pop them out and then leave them to dry and do another set. And I just make sure that it's as flat as possible around here, and it means just adding in a little bit extra. You get faster and faster at it. Bring it away from the edges so you don't have any on the edges, and if it's a little bit depressed like it is in the middle here, just add. That's probably a bit much. And you see me just lightly roll what I do here. And if you roll it just lightly like that, you will have nothing to trim, because anything that's on the side will come off. Right, so there's that. right? You can see that. Now I am going to throw these into the freezer. I will be back in about 15 minutes. Okay, so these have been in the freezer now, I think, for about half an hour. I got a little bit sidetracked. And they're not set yet, but what it does is stiffen them, so that all you do is just pop them out. And you just pull them out and they're stiff. And I will let that dry overnight. You can see the detail in that. Let me just bring it back in here so you can see the detail. Very pretty. And the key. Now the keys are traditionally harder to get out. So what I do is pull it apart like this. And of course it's been in the freezer. So you lift it up. And these sorts of things, as well as the cogs, are very hard to get out unless of course you freeze them. So then you just have to pop them out and pull them, and then you have a perfect key. Now how awesome does that look? Hey? That just looks great. And that'll dry overnight. And it's been nice and stiff to get out. So I just wanted to do some things, because I'm actually sitting here watching Gina's video at the moment, and she's got these beautiful delicate cogs, right? And they need to be left. They need to be frozen and left, and they're very gentle, and a lot of those molds are coming out just that little bit wonky and not as crisp and firm as you can see these are. The keys very, very straight, right? And often, because they've been in the freezer, they then get this stickiness on them. So once you've put them onto your non-stick mat, after you've taken them out, you leave them alone and don't keep touching them, because they are not set yet. But it just stiffens them long enough for you to get them out so that you can pop them out easily out of their molds, even the really delicate ones. And then, like I said, you can use them. And these were just like, you know, jeans boot cut tags. So I repurposed them. And that you can combine them. So I've got some leaves and a flower there, and I painted that up. And then I've got a face. That's how to use one of the faces. And then it's in like a shell mold, almost. It's like a hollow flower mold. There we go. And there you have it. So how to use Stampin' Up! Clay. Now these are now all kept in my trusty little container, and they are tough now. I can press them in, use them. Like I said, I've got some upcoming workshops. There's that same key. Right? So there's the key. Really strong now. You can press it in, right? And it just gets back its shape. I have a workshop coming up on the 11th of October. If you are in the Brisbane or Queensland area, or just over the border, it's not that far to drive, I'll be using these on a gratitude canvas. And so I'm making up a bunch of these elements because I'm going to make a couple of them available to each participant to use on their gratitude canvas whatever way they like. And of course you can do some little roses, so I've got some little roses there. I love these kind of anemone type flowers, all spiky and yum. So yeah, there's lots of exciting things you can do with these. I'm gradually collecting some really cute molds. The buttons are something I really like because you can use buttons, right? And they look like real buttons, and then they're lighter. And if you do these right, you don't need to trim them at the end. They will, as you can see, like I've got one tiny bit to trim around there, but essentially you do it so that you don't need to trim them, because then you don't waste any. So that's all from me, Missladypetal. Just thought that this would be a very good addition to what Gina's done in her video, just to show you the tips and tricks, because I was the one that sent her the molds and sent her the molding clay. So being the one that did that, I thought I should come in and give you all a little bit of a look at different ways that you can use it. All right then, learn something new today, and I hope you have. It keeps you young. Ciao for now.